A lot can happen in a week. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Raul Ramos, Associate Professor of History at the University of Houston, and Jennifer Hedaya, Executive Director of Air Alliance Houston. Raul, Jennifer, welcome to Houston Matters.
Hi, Craig.
Thank you, Craig.
Panel, we learned Wednesday that 9 of the 10 wrongful death lawsuits filed after the deadly crowd surge at the 2021 Astroworld Festival have now been settled. That includes one that was set to go to trial earlier this week. The terms of the settlement in that case were not disclosed. According to Live Nation attorney Neil Mann, the last pending wrongful death suit was filed by the family of a 9-year-old who was killed during the concert. State District Judge Kristen Hawkins says she plans to discuss that case at a hearing next week, along with potential trials related to injury cases. The AP's Juan Lozano reports that in all, more than 4,000 plaintiffs have filed hundreds of lawsuits stemming from the deadly concert. Lots of potential litigation still remains over injuries sustained at the Astroworld Festival, but only 1 of 10 wrongful death suits are still active. The rest have been settled. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Raul?
Well, the whole thing has been and continues to be ugly. It's a real dark moment in Houston history and the history of hip hop, but mostly in I have kids the same age as most of those kids who died and who were injured in that tragedy. And it's hard to relive it. And I think the families that lost kids are reliving it every day. And I can't imagine going through a trial and how terrible that must be. Whenever this comes up, I go back to that moment. It feels like one of the first big events after the pandemic. And you could tell that so much of the enthusiasm and the excitement that fueled the event was really coming off of that. There hadn't been a sort of mass moment like that. And to then turn into a tragedy the way it did and to the degree it did, looking at it retrospectively was a little bit of a foreshadowing that coming out of the pandemic was not going to be easy. There was not going to be a linear progression, that this was going to be one of the first struggles. In terms of the larger question of how these events are organized or disorganized, how the city responds or doesn't respond, I think perhaps this was a sign of things falling apart. Perhaps it got larger than its planning, got ahead of its planning in some ways. It's hard to know. But the question of accountability, I think, is one that we're still asking and I think comes up. You do see it, having been to a couple of big concerts since then. I do feel that there's an awareness and an attempt to structurally deal with these kinds of dangers, which is heartening, but it's really hard as a parent to relive that moment.
Jennifer?
So as a true non-expert in legal cases, as I understand these types of cases, a settlement means that both parties have reached a mutually agreeable conclusion. So the families of those who perished at the concert would also have a satisfactory outcome. And if that's true, then I think the lawsuits being settled is essentially good because it can bring some amount of closure to those families who have faced a truly life-altering and tragic event, as Raul said. I also read that the parties in the settlement committed to work on concert safety improvements. And just as Raul said as well, that's very important. We have seen some truly enormous concerts in the last few years. I think Madonna just broke the world record for the largest public concert ever last weekend. So it's an issue that definitely needs attention. The last thing I'll say about it is I just feel a deep sense of sadness now around Astroworld. I grew up in Houston. There was a period of my life where every summer in Houston meant I had my season pass, I rode Grease Lightning, I bought the little mini $5 Mrs. Baird's loaves of bread. I went to the Southern Star Amphitheater and watched concerts. I did all those things. We lost Astroworld in 2005, I think, physically. And not to get too metaphysical, but I think this tragedy meant that we lost Astroworld as an idea, as a concept or a memory for those of us who used to see it as a place of joy. And now when we hear the word Astroworld, just like you were saying, we think of tragedy and not of joy, and especially a tragedy that was completely preventable. And I think for me that feels really sad.
It's clear that it continues to be a sore point, especially for the headline artist, right? Travis Scott, who really saw this event as his Houston homecoming.
Yes, his homage to Astroworld.
Exactly.
Yep.
And now he doesn't even, on his tours, he doesn't stop in Houston anymore. I mean, I think he still does there's a Cactus Jack baseball tournament that he still sponsors at Minute Maid. But I think that this has changed the landscape of music. It's changed the Houston cultural landscape. Travis Scott has not really, he's addressed it some, but I have to say, the way hip hop now is dealing with controversy, I'm thinking he wouldn't really stand up to a Kendrick Lamar diss track around this at all. So I think there's still a long way to go for this, but it's important for those families that were directly affected to find healing in all those ways.
Agreed.
Panel, some combinations just go well together. Peanut butter and jelly, rock and roll, Houston, and matters. Well, how about cookies and gold? That's what Texas-based Tiff's Treats is offering for an understandably fluctuating price. Tiff's will deliver a box of a dozen cookies and send you a 1-ounce bar of gold. According to the Cron's Andrea Guzman, the Bullion Bundles cost changes with the price of gold. So, for example, as of Wednesday, it was listed at $2,506 or $189 more than the price of gold itself. So I guess that means they're charging about $15 a cookie plus $9 for shipping and handling. Tiff's Treats sells cookies and gold. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Jen?
I am so conflicted on this one. Okay, so on the one hand, it's cookies with a side of an investment metal that is reliably inflation resistant and that will diversify my retirement portfolio. On the other hand, I have to wonder how status hungry or excess driven have we become as a society that we need literal gold now to satisfy a sweet tooth. And then if I don't go for the gold with the next birthday present that I order from Tiff's, how happy of a birthday do I really want for you, right? The bar has been unnecessarily raised, pun intended. And I mean, this weekend is Mother's Day, right? I love my mother very deeply, but I can't afford to buy her bullion. So I think at the end of the day, it's good, it's bad, and it's ugly.
All right, Raul.
I like that. Status hungry. That was the other pun you didn't intend. The Bouillon Bundle, I think is what it was called, is sort of odd. My neighbors were thinking probably, weed or CBD or something like that might be
with
good
with
your cookies.
Yeah. They sell brownies too.
Right,
yeah.
There you go. But I'll put the positive spin on it. I guess the recession's over, right? We're back into this just sounds to me like the go-go 90s Wolf of Wall Street kind of moment that usually is the excess that happens right before the next crash. So I'm a little nervous. But on the one hand, if you're going to have that, you can't be complaining about gas prices and you can't be complaining about inflation if this is the next thing that's available.
You know, it does create we're at Houston Public Media, so it does create an interesting crossover, when you think of Cookie Monster and when is Cookie Monster going to start talking about, the gold that he's eating with his cookies. That could be fun, right? That there could be a crossover there.
I think this is for the next fundraiser for the radio station.
You want us to put a bar of gold in every tote bag?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Or a chance to win, a chance to win. So you can order Tiff's Treats, just cookies, and you get a chance to win the bullion. So that could be it. One of those tote bags has a gold bar in it, Craig. We figured it out for you.
I do like the idea, though, of Sesame Street characters being a part of this. You have the count keeping track of the cost of gold
as it changes at the stock market, as it goes up and down. That was great.
$3.
Trade. Okay.
Elmo
doesn't want silver. Jennifer Hedaya is the executive director of Air Alliance Houston. Raul Ramos is an associate professor of history at the University of Houston. Jennifer, Raul, thank you both.
Thank you, Craig.
Bye-bye.
C is for cookie, that's good enough for me. Yeah, C is for cookie, that's good enough for me. C is for cookie, that's good enough for me. Oh, cookie, cookie, cookie starts with C. Yeah! Cookie, cookie, cookie starts with C. Oh boy! Cookie, cookie, cookie starts with C.